G'day gymnastics skill seekers, welcome back to another training vlog. Over the last 4 weeks I've been posting pretty much my training program and sharing that with you in the current phase. So I'm now into week 5 and I've got week 5 and week 6 to go before the training program will change. Today I thought I'd share a little bit more around my goals and what I'm currently working on and how I'm progressing towards those goals. So I've got 4 specific strength goals and 3 specific flexibility goals that I'm currently working on. I've got to fit those 7 goals into 4 days a week of training. So on 3 of those days, I'm combining flexibility and strength. And on 1 of those days, I'm working on pure flexibility. So in this little video, I'm going to talk to you about my 4 strength goals. Now, I think it's easy to have far too many goals to focus on. And I've definitely made that mistake before. But I've found it best to dedicate your training to a smaller number of goals if you really want to make progress with your gymnastic strength and flexibility. So being specific about the current goals that you want to work on is definitely going to be a great way to help you progress towards those goals. And unfortunately, that means we have to sacrifice some of the other goals we want, or we've got to try and figure out, well, what's our priorities in an order of, your 10 top gymnastics goals? What are the top 5 that you want to work on? So let's kick it off with the Stalder press. I want to work on the Stalder press. Now, I've been able to do a press to handstand for a number of years right now, but my form wasn't really that good. So I had the strength to muscle my way through the press handstand, but I definitely didn't have the flexibility. So I'd press with bent knees, I'd press more like a planche and lean forward because the shoulders weren't flexible enough, the spine wasn't flexible enough. I was missing flexibility. And that's one of the reasons why I really started to focus more on flexibility. Flexibility was holding me back from my gymnastic strength goals. And if I wanted to progress, I needed to get more flexible. Strength will only take you so far in gymnastic strength training. So I'm currently working on my pancake flexibility with 30 at Learning to Human, and we're working towards a chest to floor pancake. Now you might see my video and think, geez, I've got a long way to go, and I certainly have, but I've also come a very long way. When I first started doing this, I used to sit on weight plates and not even be able to get my elbows to touch the floor. My flexibility was terrible after years of triathlon and marathon training and competing. So to be sitting on the floor now and to have the torso leaning this far forward is great progress, but this is something I've been working on with 30 now for over 12 months. So it's a slow journey, just like building strength, it takes time, but I'm committed to unlocking that chest to floor pancake. I feel it's getting better. I've said this in another video that I feel that I'm sitting further forward on my hip bones now, and I'm feeling more of the stretch in hamstrings right now, which is a great thing. Sort of glute hamstring fold right at the top there is where I feel the stretch. And yeah, I've got 15 kilos on my back right now, and this is probably the deepest my pancake's ever been. So it's heading in the right direction, a long way to go. So this is helping me with the Stalder press goal. I'm currently working on this L-sit press to stand, pausing here, and then going into my straddle press. I pause because this is the toughest part of the Stalder press. This is the part where the lever length is going to be the longest. This is the part where the shoulders are going to be loaded the most. This is the difficult part of the transition where we're sort of going from that L-sit or going from that Stalder into the actual handstand. So this little pause just helps me reset, lets me take a break, lets me establish the position and make sure it's great for the pressing to the straddle press to handstand. And then once I press into the handstand, I'm trying to work on my alignment there, get a nice straight handstand, set the posterior pelvic tilt, contract the glutes. And then I'm just trying to come back down in that L-sit press sort of shape just to work more of the straight arm strength, loading it eccentrically, which is obviously going to help improve the concentric strength and help me work towards the press to handstand. If I've done all the work to get up there, then why not just use that eccentric on the way down to help progress that instead of just kicking out or coming down out of the handstand. So that's what I'm working with that one, the eccentric pike press. So my focus here, big focus points have been core compression. So when I'm in that L-sit, I think the higher I lift the legs or the more I can close the angle between my torso and my legs, well then the easier is it's going to be to press to that standing position, or the easier it's going to be to press through to the handstand. The bigger that angle, then the longer the lever length, the harder it's going to be, the more the shoulders are going to have to lean forward. So just working on that core compression strength there. Obviously the flexibility, need to have good length in the posterior chain so that you can strengthen the anterior chain. So that's really been something that's been helping. Rounding the back, I think, often we can arch the back. We want to round the back as we press into handstand. So keeping the ribs pulled in, trying to elevate the shoulders and maintaining that sort of rounded back definitely helps with my press to handstand. If I start to arch or if I lean the shoulders forward more, then the press becomes a lot harder. Also just focusing on the pelvic tilt. So obviously when we're in that pike position, we've got that anterior pelvic tilt, but as we press, the pelvis has to rotate into that posterior pelvic tilt in the top of the handstand. So just being mindful of that and trying to move more from the pelvis, and also just being very mindful of trying to keep my legs straight. Obviously flexibility dictates this, and I've got a slight bend in my knees in a number of my repetitions, but it does help to try and contract those quads and point those toes and keep the legs straight. An analogy I like to use often with my clients is don't be the bag of sand. So if I was to give you a 20 kilo weight plate, and that's a heavy weight plate, and if I was to ask you to carry it down the street and back, you'd hold it close to your chest and you'd carry it. It'd be heavy, but you'd be able to do it because it's a solid object. If I give you a 20 kilo bag of sand and you have to carry that down the street, it's a lot harder to carry because the sand is going to move around. So the same applies to your body. If you're soft and limp and you're moving around all over the place, that can be harder to control. If we create tension in the body and we become the solid weight plate, then it's a lot easier to be able to control and manipulate, move our body into positions where we want to be, control that balance. So a lot of benefits come from not being the bag of sand. Something that's really helped me is something that I've added in this phase myself. I was experimenting with the Jefferson curl and different ways to teach my clients the Jefferson curl. And I was working on this sort of wall-assisted Jefferson curl where we use the wall to get feedback on our spinal segmentation. And what it helps us do is it just helps us isolate spinal flexion as we roll down into the bottom of the Jefferson curl. It's a great stretch for the posterior chain. We can also use it to strengthen the anterior chain if we actively pull ourselves into the bottom of that Jefferson curl. On the way back up, we're unrolling. So we've got to think about posterior pelvic tilting first. Then we've got to think about lumbar, thoracic, cervical spine as we unroll the spine. Now this is very similar to the press to handstand. The same sort of motion has to happen, except for now we're upside down, we're standing on our hands. But if I do some repetitions of this Jefferson curl between sets of my press to handstand, it helps to improve my flexibility, but it also just helps me get a better press to handstand. I feel that it's easier after I've done the reps of the Jefferson curl. So that's something I've added myself and something that I feel has made a big difference here when I've started to work on this press to handstand. Okay, so the next strength skill I'm working on is the front lever. And the front lever is definitely a tough straight arm pulling strength movement. In the past, I've only ever been able to get to sort of like an advanced tuck, maybe sort of a half lay and be able to hold that for a few seconds, but I've never really been able to progress much past that into the straddle or into the full front lever. So in the current phase, I'm working on these eccentric front levers. In sort of week 1, 2, and 3, I was struggling to get 3 reps in this straight body position. I would do 1 rep straight body, 1 rep straddle, 1 rep bent knee sort of thing, because the lats are just fatigued so quickly. So over the 5 weeks now, I've noticed that the strength is improving. I can now do 3 eccentric repetitions with straight arms and with the straight body, trying to do them as slow as I possibly can. And the big focus for me here has been really just trying to get tight through my midline. So when I'm inverted, hanging upside down on the rings, I'm trying to set that strong posterior pelvic tilt. I'm trying to pull the rib cage down. I'm trying to brace that midsection, squeezing those quads, creating tension throughout the body so I can try to hold that hollow body shape as I lower down. The other thing I've been trying to think about is like this counterbalance weight. So as the legs lower down and the shoulders lift up, the point of balance is on the rings, and can I keep the rings closer to the hips? So I'm trying to think about, okay, as the shoulders come up, I want to keep them as far away from the rings as I can and keep the angle between my arms and torso to a minimum. The more I open up that angle, the more the shoulders move back towards the rings and the more the weight is distributed towards my legs. So if I want to be able to hold that front lever or get more strength in that front lever, it's about the position of the body, where the body is in relationship to the hands and to the rings. So just trying to focus on that or be aware of that a little bit has definitely helped. And I'm getting a strong sensation in the lower lat with this, which is something new for me. I've always sort of felt shoulders or upper back. So now that's starting to change. I'm a long way away from my front lever, but definitely noticing a difference and have been feeling the progress with this block. Okay, so gymnastic strength goal number 3 is the strict handstand push-up, and I'm actually training this twice a week. So in the first session, I'm doing an eccentric handstand push-up on the P-bars. I'm using the P-bars just to get extra height, so I get good depth in that handstand push-up, making room for the head to sort of come down. So I'm kicking up to handstand. I'm trying to set a nice tight body shape, pushing the inside edge of the feet together, setting a tight posterior pelvic tilt, pulling that rib cage down, trying to stay nice and tight here, and just control the eccentric. I struggle a little bit here because what we're doing is 5 sets of 3 repetitions. So a small rest between the repetitions, but definitely as the session goes on, I start to fatigue and those reps start to go a lot faster. I'm not controlling the eccentric as much as I would like. In the past, I've been able to work up to kicking up and doing a 30-second eccentric handstand push-up, but I still haven't been able to get the concentric handstand push-up. So this is a new approach to me, doing multiple repetitions, getting more volume in terms of the repetitions, but it's definitely fatiguing for me. I've always struggled with pressing movements. I've never been as strong in my pressing movements as I have in my pulling movements. When I was doing weights training, I was never really that great at bench press, but my chin-ups and pull-up weights were up there. So definitely one of my weaknesses. So I'm enjoying working on this, but yeah, it's definitely something I'm struggling with or something that I'm going to have to pay more attention to. The second session of this during the week is still on the P-bars, just a lower set here because I'm kicking up to handstand, opening to star, controlling the eccentric, and then moving into that bent arm straddle planche. The star shape is a little bit easier. It gives you a little bit more balance, or it's easier to balance that star shape. It's harder maybe to hold that midline tension. And again, this is 5 sets of 3. So as the sets go on, I start to fatigue and that eccentric becomes a lot quicker. If I've had maybe not the best recovery between sessions, so there's been a couple of weeks with me pushing sessions around and then doing sessions back to back. Ideally, I'd like to train on a Monday, Wednesday, Friday with my strength and flexibility sessions, but sometimes it's been like a Monday, Thursday, Friday. And if this session's on a Friday, I'm still fatigued after doing the Thursday session, then I know it's not as good. Or if I've not had as good a quality sleep or my nutrition hasn't been on point, these are all things that can affect that. This eccentric handstand push-up for me is very high on central nervous system. It's working sort of maximum strength. So if I'm not fully recovered, I do notice a difference there. Whereas if I've had a good night's sleep, if everything's been going well, my training's on point and I'm not training 2 days back to back, then I'm definitely stronger in that eccentric handstand push-up. So continue to work on this goal. I'd be interested to see where we take this next. The fourth and final goal that I'm working on in terms of my gymnastic strength is the backwards roll on the rings. Now, I've been working with my gymnastic strength coach, Nanu, on building the strength and preparing the body for this backwards roll. So we've been doing a lot of muscle-up transition work, and we've been doing progressions of the forward roll over the last few months. And this has really helped to condition the shoulders and the elbows and the wrists and the false grip and all these things that I'm going to need to be able to do the backwards roll. The backwards roll is not a movement that you would just jump straight into. There is a lot of force placed on the connective tissue of the upper body here. So if you don't prepare it correctly, I think you're going to get injured trying to do this. So don't just jump straight into this one. Over the 5 weeks, my confidence has got better with this. So in the start, it's like, how hard do you kip and am I going to be able to handle the forces here? So as I've gone on and started to progress with this, I've been able to kip harder and feel that my body can handle the forces being put into the shoulders and the elbows here. Now this little drill, the goal isn't to catch the backwards roll just yet. The goal is to do the backwards roll, kip, and then land with the feet on the ground, okay? So it's a good little progression towards the backwards roll, and I'm starting to feel that I'm getting higher. I do cheat a little bit by letting the rings go out wider, so I've got to learn to keep the rings in a little bit closer as I go through that kipping motion. But yeah, as I get more confidence with this and I get the kip to be more powerful, I'm getting closer to catching that backwards roll in the ring support position, not in the bottom of the dip, okay? So we're trying to get high here, lock out the arms and catch in the support position. It's a fun little drill to work on, and like I said, as the confidence has grown, I've enjoyed this little exercise more and more. We're continuing with the conditioning work here. We're doing a lot of transitions, muscle up transitions here, just to keep building the strength in the shoulders. And I'm pretty sure in the next phase, Nanun will be pushing me to get the backwards roll, not the backwards kip to stand. So yeah, it's been a fun drill, exciting to learn. I'm really enjoying learning more skills or unlocking more skills on the gymnastics rings. So that's pretty much it for today. There's my 4 gymnastic strength goals that I'm currently working on right now. I'm about to take Christmas break, coming to the end of this phase, and I've just told them that I'm going to be going away. So packing the gymnastics rings, packing the P-bars, packing, a yoga block maybe and some bands, so I won't have a lot of equipment to work with. My goal here is to maintain the level of strength that I've got, so that when we're starting 2023 and I'm back at home and I've got access to everything that I need, that I haven't lost any progress and I'm ready to start to to continue working on these goals. Then looking forward to getting back to the gym in 2023 and really getting closer to accomplishing these goals. Once these goals are ticked off the list, well, then I can start to move on to new goals. And like I said at the start of the video, I think it's very important to be specific about the goals you want to train, get priorities sorted, and don't be distracted by 1,000 different things or 1,000 different goals. Focus on what you want to train. And that's why it helps to have a coach, and that's also why it helps to have a program to follow. Be very specific, very targeted, and not get distracted and pulled in all sorts of directions. You definitely progress much faster. Wishing you a safe and happy Christmas and New Year. Thanks for watching. If you've got any questions or comments about my gymnastic strength goals, feel free to leave them in the comments below on the YouTube channel, and I'll definitely get back to you. And look forward to connecting next year.